Anti-corruption protests were quelled by riot police in Zimbabwe last week, Friday, and calls are growing for change in that country. One such person who's calling for change is the chairperson of the African Diaspora Forum. His name is Dr. Vusumuzi Sibanda. He's written an open letter to President Emmerson Mnangagwa as well as the leadership of SADC and the African Union. He joins us now to unpack some of the details contained in that letter. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us this afternoon. So you note, with all honor and respect, Your Excellencies, the running and marching of soldiers and police, singing and marching on the streets of Zimbabwean towns is worse than the colonial and apartheid era of the worst oppression of black Africans in Africa.
Indeed. Good afternoon to your listeners. Yes, I think you will understand that the kind of marching that, for example, was seen, in the street of Harare is something that was probably seen, by, people, I don't know in which particular era, because even the, colonial regimes, did not ordinarily send their soldiers and police to march and sing, to intimidate people. And you are intimidating people, the masses that have elected you into power, and these people are not carrying any weapons. All that they are doing is to basically rely on their right to demonstrate, which is enshrined and entrenched, in that country's constitution. But they are then denied that particular right, and to ensure that, that denial is emphatic, then the police and the soldiers are unleashed onto the streets, beating, arresting people arbitrarily, including the arrest of, the now released, Titi Dangarembwa, who were arrested while they were in their premises, and it was only 2 of them. So this is an untenable situation, something that no one can, turn a blind eye to.
Mm-hmm. You also note that Zimbabwe has the highest number of people living in South Africa, and you say this is an indicator that Zimbabwe cannot provide for its people in terms of jobs, or there is political persecution of the people when they try to rise.
Indeed so. I mean, look, the truth of the matter is, the unofficial statistics show us that, in South Africa there is between 3 and 6 million Zimbabweans, and a lot of them come in here and, some of them easily find their way and survive even, without documentation, which is not a very good thing because, it also, gives problems, in particular if, people need to be accounted for or service provision has got to be done. And the mere fact that, a huge number of people, from a country can find their way out of the country is an indicator that there is something that is pushing them, which we call the push factors. And in this particular case, the country cannot provide economically in terms of jobs. And we know that unemployment levels are sitting above 90%, where the majority of the people that are in that country are self-employed, including graduates that are selling tomatoes on the streets, which is something very bad. And of course, we also see that, like what we saw with the Transform Zimbabwe leader and what we have seen with people like Job Sikala from the MDC Alliance, that a lot of, political activists, including, Miss Joanna Chimombe, we see that a lot of political activists, once they stand up and talk or express their mind, which is a constitutionally enshrined right again, they are then arrested for criticizing or speaking against, government activity, which is seen, to be basically against the norms that are expected in a constitutional democracy and within, the society of, this modern era. So yes, indeed. I mean, what we are seeing there is a situation that, the country has spewed out all its people to various countries. South Africa has a huge number of Zimbabweans, so is Botswana, so is the United Kingdom, so is New Zealand and Australia and the United States. This is very bad.
To the Excellencies, the chairperson of the African Union and SADC, you detail a number of failures on their part in your letter, and you note that we cannot wait to act when the United Nations or other countries outside the African continent raise their voices. Do you believe that we have failed ourselves here?
I think we have failed ourselves dismally, and if you look at this, you will notice that there are so many atrocities that are taking place in Africa. And every now and again, we have to wait for, the ICC either to arrest a particular president after he has left office or so, to then say, but look, there is a problem. And a lot of African leaders then come up and say, but look, why should the ICC come and arrest one of us? This is wrong. It's a neo-colonial agenda. But the truth of the matter is, we see people being killed in Zimbabwe, for example, in 1982-83. Over 20,000 people, were killed en masse, and buried in mass graves. And the same thing happened in the year 2000 and 2008. And we also see, these, in Cameroon and so forth. And yet we have got the African Union, we've got SADC, we've got these regional bodies. And these regional bodies, in our view, they are not meant to be a comfort zone for the leaders or the political heads so that they can go sit down, sip some tea, and talk about, I don't know what exactly. But truly they are there as a result of the people of Africa, so that if the people of Africa, if there are things that are not right, they don't even need people to stand up and start complaining to the AU or to the SADC to say we have got problems. They see these things, they live within Africa, unless, the excellencies, the chairpersons of the AU and SADC are going to be telling us that they cannot see no evil or hear no evil, or they can't see what is happening, within these countries. They don't know that people are being arrested, bashed, and killed, and there is such, unrest, in the African continent. And all they have to hide behind is the concept of sovereign states, that the protocols, that are embedded or kept in these particular, regional bodies, basically say that they respect the sovereignty of each state. And we cannot, and we know that law does not allow, the concept of sovereignty to be left untouched where it deals or concerns the human rights and fundamental, basic human rights of people.
Vusumuzi Sibanda is the chairperson of the African Diaspora Forum.